Absolutely, yes, sir.
So why did your daughter have to invite you to Starbucks coffee to get the evidence so that the police could arrest you?
I don't know.
Why did you turn yourself into the police?
No, I didn't turn myself into the police. No, I turned myself over to my family.
What I'm saying is, why didn't you turn yourself in? Why did your daughter have to wear a listening device at Starbucks coffee to gain evidence so that the police could arrest you?
I was in denial. I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to go to prison. That's what I was doing then. I was in denial.
Thank you, sir.
We are about to watch a parole hearing for the worst of the worst. A man who did it to his daughter for years. Now, he was given a 20-year sentence, 1 year suspended. His full term date is in 2029. And this hearing took place in 2022. So he has 7 years left on his sentence at the time of this parole hearing. The reason that I'm sharing this information is that I skipped through the beginning portions because it was slow moving, but he completed all the programs. He did the 4 sex offender programs, and he went through that whole thing, how great of an inmate he is, because all roaches are. Now, Mr. O'Shea is a little bit, this is kind of the stage where he's talking even slower. So if you want to put it on 1.5x speed, that's okay. But Mr. Marabella also comes in with a good 1-2 of his own. But with that, let's jump in.
Mr. Shelton, I need you to explain to this panel why have you been incarcerated for the last 12 and a half years? I need to tell us exactly what you did to plead guilty to aggravated incest.
I am quite humbled by the forgiveness you stated. To answer your question, I was arrested for aggravated incest in 2010, and I pled guilty for the wrongs that I did do. And at first I didn't want to own them, but I had to come to some conclusions of my own. I had to see the harm, whether I intended it or not, which was my first self-defense. It was useless. It was wrong too. I always wanted to, I didn't want to be wrong, but I was. But I got past that and I seen the damage and the hurt and the wrong. This is my daughter. She should not have ever experienced such things. And I'm sorry. I feel hopeless in a lot of ways because I couldn't do nothing then, and even now, all I know is I'm sorry. I can't go back. I wish I could. I've done everything I can to try to make the future better. At least give her peace of mind that I'm doing what I can to not ever do this to anybody else. But I was arrested for aggravated incest. I pled guilty to it. Since that time, I've tried to do everything I can to change the things that caused that to occur or could cause that to occur or anything even remotely around it. And it leads me to today. This is, many years later, and obviously I've still not processed everything. I've done everything I can, but now to integrate with my family, that's all that's new to me. I've been in prison for 12 years.
Mr. Sheldon?
Yes, sir.
You have not answered my question.
I'm sorry.
What did you do to cause your incarceration?
I committed aggravated incest with my daughter.
Just a question. Did you sexually molest your daughter?
Yes, sir. I sexually molested my daughter.
At what age?
She was a teenager.
Was 12 years old. That's not a teenager.
No. 12? No, not 12.
That's, our record says 12 or 13.
No, that's an error in the record.
Well, the record is the record, Mr. Shelby. Okay?
Well, I've never had that record. The record said
So you sexually molested your biological daughter. Am I correct?
yes, sir.
Tell me why.
Well, that was the time during the opioid condition and my pain, and I was not my regular self. That doesn't excuse the crime. It's what created it. I regret it.
You said that you were only on the opioids 18 months. You molested this biological daughter until she was 17 or 18 years old.
I'm not
So,
sure what the record.
Don't blame the opioids.
Well, it was the conditions. I was intoxicated.
But I thought you said you didn't use alcohol.
On the drugs, on the pain. I was not my normal self. That was the condition. I'm not trying to excuse myself. It's wrong.
Mr. Shelby, all this victim wants is for you to own up to exactly what you did. To give her some reassurance that you won't do it again. She wants to know if you own up, and she wants to know, are you rehabilitated to the point that you will not be a danger to any other family members? That's all she wants, is for you to own up to exactly what you did. And you are skirting the issue. You're saying that she wasn't 12, she was, it's that much difference.
Right.
And
It's
you want
wrong.
to say it didn't last a long period of time. And she reported this when she was 18 or 19 years old, if I'm correct. Am I correct? When she was 20, when she reported it. So
we're having difficulty hearing you. I'm really struggling to hear you.
it's convenient for you not to hear the truth. She was 20 years old when she reported it.
That's correct. She was 20 years old when she reported it.
Okay. So as you say, she was 13 like you said she was. That was 7 years.
Yes, sir. That's accurate. 13 to 17 is accurate. Yes, sir.
But it just didn't happen once or twice. It happened over a long period of time. And
Well, to be as open as I can.
want you to own up and just say that you sexually molested your daughter.
I did, and I do now. I'm trying to say it discreetly. I don't know how far to go. It's like,
Oh, well, you can tell us the truth. You don't have to be discreet.
I went to my daughter in a confused state, and that's not my excuse. And I use I try to use her for affections to try to deal with my pains and my issues, and that was wrong. This is what happened, and then it migrated from her early age to some incidents that were of a sexual nature as she was an older teenager. Prior to this, I could see why when she was later older teenager, why she would reflect back at these things and say, oh, this is all the same. I understand that. But the things that occurred when she was an older teenager, I can't recall the times. I'm telling the truth. I can't remember all the dates and times. That's part of the trauma I went through for those years. My memory is, I have to go by the record. I had to go read my medical records to find out what year it was. This is what really happened. I'm not telling you. Story. This is what really, yes, sir.
Today is July 27, 2022. Is it that difficult for you to admit that you say that you sexually molested your daughter over a period of 7 years?
No, sir, it's not too difficult to say that.
Say it.
Okay. From 2004 through, I'm trying to get my calculations. It's hard for me to think. I'm nervous. From 2004 forward, I molested my daughter sexually and wrongfully affection toward my own daughter. And I hurt her and I confused her. I don't know what else to say as far as it went with us.
That
I'm sorry.
you just taking responsibility for your actions.
Yes, sir.
You
I did
just
that.
take
Didn't ask for
responsibility.
any of this.
Now,
She-
I understand that you've been married for 37 years. Is that correct?
Married 37 years.
I've been married for 37 years.
Yes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I mumbled. Yes, sir. I've been married for 37 years to my wife.
And where was your wife when all this was going on?
She was unaware until I made her aware and told her what happened. Prior to prison, I sat down at the table and told my daughter and my wife what I'd done. She was informed by me. But prior to this, it was affections. When the sexual encounters that were battery type things, the legal language says, I told my family when it happened, I said, this happened. Sat down at the kitchen table in an RV, my daughter sitting across me, my wife sitting across me. I sat down and I told them what I had done, just similar to what I tried to do here. And it was wrong. And then if you listen to her, she'll tell you there was a point from that point forward, nothing ever happened. And it's like, I was on this downward spiral, and I will never use cheating. I'll never use as an excuse.
Shelton, let me stop you right there. Because I don't want you to dig another hole that you might get buried in. So let me stop you there. Let's talk about your disciplinary issue. How many disciplinary write-ups have you had since you've been incarcerated?
I think I had 5, if I remember correctly.
And your last 2 disciplinary write-ups were in 2017?
That's correct. I would think it's 2017.
Yeah. And got a number 5 for aggravated disobedience. Do you remember what happened?
Yes, sir. I I was going to the ed building to go to one of my call outs, and there was no security in the building at the time. So I left, and I encountered security, and they told me to go back to the dorm and not to come back. So when I went to the dorm, the sergeant there sent me back. Anyhow, I got caught in a crossfire there, and she told me not to return, so I should have explained it better to the sergeant in the dorm. So I went back to the building. She said, "I thought I told you," and so I disobeyed a direct order and came back. We did iron it out later. You know, we did iron it out. I took my charge.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about your transition plan. Tell us about your transition plan, where you're gonna live and where you're gonna work.
Wow. If my transition plan starts with a home with that wife of 37 years, who's going to help me plug into the parole process. I'm totally new to it. I've never been out on parole, but I'm going to get involved with that, get my parole set up. I have a job waiting. I have transportation. I have contractors that are going to support our little company and help us just, you know, stay in the right direction. I have Brother Joe, who's here today, or Brother Stephen Roselle, a pastor who's going to help me, reestablish me, keep me plugged into the right kind of things that keep me strong. I have family support. Man, I'm so humbled that my family, and now just to hear the forgiveness, that helps me even more. So that goes in my plan, is to not disappoint her. She's invested a lot in that forgiveness, and I'm going to move in on that and stay focused. I'm going to enroll myself.
So you're gonna live in a family home, am I correct?
Yes, sir. I sure am.
Are you aware that you will have to register as a sex offender
Yes, sir.
of the duration? And your children will not be allowed to bring your grandchildren, or any of your relatives be allowed to bring their children to your home for holidays or special occasions?
I'm learning these things, but yes, sir. I'm aware of that now.
So basically, by you living in your family home, you will stop any interrelationship of a normal family on holidays and special occasions.
Right. I understand that.
And you know that you have to continue your sex offender classes if and when you're released.
I was planning on doing that if it wasn't required. I'd already made arrangements on my own.
They will be a part of your sex offender contract.
I understand.
So what is your current job at the facility right now?
I am a HVAC technician. I work for maintenance. Primarily, my job is to work on the ventilation equipment, air conditioning, and the ice machines.
And how long have you been doing that?
A couple of years now, a little over 2 years. I've had a couple of evaluations, and they like me. I've been doing pretty good work, and I feel it's getting me ready for re-entry too.
Mr. Shelton, you have done very well in 12 years of your incarceration. You've taken a lot of programs. You fulfilled your sex offender obligation by completing all 4 phases of the sex offender treatment. Tell me about phase 4, when you facilitated the program. What did you get out of that program, and what did you transmit to other offenders that were in the program when you facilitated the program?
Primarily, the content of all 4 phases leads to the offender recognizing the events, behavior patterns, habits, any kind of patterns in their life. Help. We try to addresses getting them to recognize what leads to an offense and how to avoid that. That's the primary focus of it, of the whole program, is the reoffending process. But in the phases of each one, you address your condition, your environment, and how you position yourself in that environment. And that's a general statement of the BETG program.
You survive without any electronic devices. I understand that computers and laptops and iPads are off limits because of the availability of the internet. I think, am I right, Freeman?
Yeah, computers, I know.
Laptops, yeah. And you won't be able to use them. How will you survive without using modern day technology?
Well, I didn't know that, but it's kind of a paradoxical situation with my business. I took a computer class here over the last 2 years, and I just got my last certification that's offered. And so I wanted to learn and be ready for that. But I prided myself for 20 plus years of having a business that operated on paper, and technology was not a part of our administration's process. So I think I'll be fine. I did not know. I'm learning. Like I said, I'm learning the parole process and what will won't be available to me. That's not taught in BETG, or we don't teach that or know that information. But I understand what you're informing me of today, and I'm going to take what I have and what's offered to me and work with that. And if I can do this in prison, I understand for my family, especially my spouse, my home is going to become an extension to prison. I understand that, but it's a better place for me than it is here. So I'm going to respect that. There's rules and regulations there, just like here, and I'll have to obey those rules. I'll learn them. I'll obey them, and I'll live a good life. I got myself in this a long time ago, and this is the process, then I'm staying in the process.
Your parole officer will inform you of the stipulations under that sex offender contract. But I think laptops and computers are one of the things that you will not be able to use. Warren Bickham, do you have any comments?
Yes, sir. Well, y'all pretty much covered what I had. Jesse does work for our maintenance department. He works on the HVAC equipment, been doing it for a while, and been a pretty good worker with it. And y'all saw all the courses and facilitation that he's done for us.
Thank you, Warren.
Yes, sir.
Arabella.
Mr. Shelton, be real honest with you. This type of offense is very troubling to me, and very concerned. Can you not hear me? I can speak louder.
It's digitizing. Sometimes your words don't come through.
I'm trying to speak slower if that will help you. You've indicated as to the why you did this, because you were intoxicated or on drugs and whatever. I've been in this business a long time. I was a defense lawyer, a prosecutor, a judge, and now I'm on this panel here. These kinds of offenses have always been of concern to me. I've always believed that whoever commits these kinds of offenses have some sort of mental health or emotional issues. Have you had mental health evaluations while you've been in prison?
Yes, sir.
What have you learned about yourself?
Well, I learned that I had harbored issues in my heart, pain, resentments from my own past. But I try not to bring it up in a setting like this, except when you ask, because I don't want to appear like I'm a victim. My daughter's a
If you
victim. I
don't tell me
understand.
those things, you're not going to get my vote. So I need to know what motivated. So I need to know what motivated you to do this, whether you have learned anything about it or whether you figured out who you were. Normal people don't do this. There's generally speaking some underlying issue that causes this. I've read through your reports. It appears to me that you have had over your lifetime while you were out a very controlling personality, a very manipulating personality. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir. I had control
So
issues.
Okay, so tell me what you've done to address those things and how did you learn about this?
Okay, I understand more clearly now. I apologize. The control issues were a reflection of that pain I was describing in my own life. But the control issues, I had to come to grips. You're not in control, Jesse. I tried to be Mr. Independent, in control, and I lacked involving myself.
Tell me what gave you that realization. I never heard you say anything about that. All of the questions that Mr. Roche asked you, your answers were, well, it was the drugs, it was this, it was that. I want to know about the man that you were and who you are today. A man was ill who performed these criminal acts. And I don't buy that pain medication made you do that. I've dealt with drug users forever. Very few of them are child molesters.
No.
So I'm
right.
trying to figure out what it is. You know, you speak very well. You've taken hundreds of courses. A lot of people take educational courses. They learn things in their head, but they don't seem to understand it in their hearts. So I want you to tell me who you were, who was the man who molested his natural daughter for, by your recollection, 4 years. And how is that person changed? What motivated you? I'm not buying alcohol. I'm not buying opioids. So what was it in you that made you do it?
I sought to get out of my daughter through sex or sexual acts, a satisfaction to deal with my problems in life. Ultimately, as I learned from these programs, I had to own this myself. It's easy to teach someone else and see them do it. Control was one aspect. Trying to satisfy an appetite in your heart towards your pains, problems, or whatever mine was pains and problems, using sex as a drug or as a cure. First, it started with affections with my daughter. I wasn't trying to do it. I did it. I can't say that I planned it out and strategized, but I did it. I started off with affection. The next, no, it's to this level. And then I catch myself in the middle of wrongfully, sexually touching my daughter. In so much my conscience woke up. I said, no, this is not who I am. I brought it to my family table and said, this is what I did. And I told them what I did. I told them what I did.
Because you didn't volunteer this. Once it came to light, you admitted what you did.
Nobody
right?
caught me. Nobody caught me. Nobody caught me. My conscience caught me. I hated myself. I seen what I did. I started with affections and a heart and emotions. And then it migrated to too much touching, then a sexual touching situation. And when it got to that level, it shocked me. I soaked myself up. I said, wait a minute, who are you? Are you some kind of animal or something? My daughter confronted me. She said, this is not right, Dad. And I agreed with her. That's what happened.
Thank you, sir. That's all.
I'm sorry, you know.
I have
I'm sorry.
additional questions. So you self-reported and had a conference with your family and talked about this, right?
Did you understand?
Sorry, repeat it, Mr. Secretary.
Great. So you self-reported and had a conference with your family to tell your family that you were molesting your daughter before you were arrested.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, yes, sir.
So why did your daughter have to invite you to Starbucks coffee to get the evidence that you molested her so that the police could arrest you?
I don't know.
Why did you turn yourself into the police?
No, I didn't turn myself into the police. No, I turned myself over to my family.
What I'm saying is, why didn't you turn yourself in? Why did your daughter have to wear a listening device at Starbucks coffee to gain evidence so that the police could arrest you?
I was in denial. I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to go to prison. That's what I was doing then. I was in denial.
Thank you, sir. Let's hear from Michelle Shelton, his wife. Ms. Shelton, would you please open your mic? Yes, Ms. Shelton, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Michelle.
Would you like to make a statement?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement. I'm Michelle Shelton, and I've been with Jessie Shelton since we were 16 years old. It's been a very long road. Both he and I had some very difficult childhood issues. We grew together. We overcame much together. There's anybody that knows Jessie Shelton, it's me. We've had our struggles through the years. Jessie had some control issues. I can't answer for him, but I do know his life, his background, which y'all do not know. And a lot of that stemmed from some issues that he went through as a child, and me. We were two children who clung together, grew up together, and sacrificed so much to raise three amazing children. Unfortunately, as I said in my letter, there were some injuries, legitimate. One started, he lost a thumb the day our first child was born, due to be born. A lot of neurological issues. I know I have the medical facts. I'm a person who keeps records, and I had no idea why, but I know now. I have records of these injuries. I say all that not as trying to make an excuse. I'm saying some facts. There were injuries, there were medications. Jessie is a little off with the amount of time he was on medications. It was a lot longer than 18 months. In fact, my sister, who is a registered nurse, at one time I went to her crying because Jessie was not himself. And she saw he was on 6 pain meds at one time. We multiple times flushed him down the toilet. In doctor records they had no other option but to write chronic pain. They had no idea how to help him. He was in a different state of mind. The incarceration, the wrong things that happened, They're sickening, they're awful to hear. But as a person who's been with him since 16 years old, I do not believe there was an actual deep planning and deep intent to do these things to our daughter. It happened, and it's awful. And believe me, it's a struggle even trying to compute it. But I have determined, because I know my daughter, I know my husband, I know our family, I'm determined to work through this. And should he be granted parole, as I've proven 12 and a half years to stick by him, I'll make sure that he is takes part in these programs. He's willing to. I look forward to continuing to another level of healing and bettering ourselves. He's done a whole lot there at Rayburn. I've seen him grow, I've seen him change, but there is a certain level of growth that can come once he has the freedom. We need the freedom to just be able to cry and grieve. We've not been able to do that even. And I ask your approval. I beg for your approval to give him the chance to prove himself. I believe I have absolutely no hesitation in saying he's not going to reoffend. That's not his character. That's not who he is. He's healed. Being at Rayburn, he's had the demobilization. That nerve damage is healed. He's not on any medications, and do not ever intend on being on any more medications. I hope you can sincerely hear me. I love my daughter. I'm doing my very best to keep communications with her. We've done that over the years. There's still some very difficult issues that we need to face, but I'm willing to work on it. I'm willing to face that because I believe in my family. So I just ask for your approval today. And
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here today, and we understand that you will do everything possible to keep the family together.
thank you.
Now, we're going to hear from your son, Andrew.
Yes, hello. I'm Andrew Shelton. That's my dad sitting over there. I've kind of been trying to think of, what I would say. Never been to a parole board hearing before. But after kind of seeing the process and everything, I want to say I'm here to support my dad. I was in the military for 10 years, and I moved away from home and kind of got away from the situation that was going on in my family, and started a family of my own, and now have moved back here. And being able to visit my dad in prison, we've had some hard conversations, as you can imagine, and we've had some breakthroughs, I think, in our relationship. And I do believe my father is changed. He's changed a lot over this past decade and some more. And I just wanted to be here, show my support. If he needs a ride to therapy, if he needs whatever, I'll be here for him as part of his network. If you guys decide that he can go on parole. So that being said, I think that's it.
Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Let's hear from Stephen Roselle. Pastor?
Yes, my name is Joe Roselle, and I'm the pastor at Magnolia Baptist in Covington. And I've known Jessie for some 18 years now, prior to incarceration and through incarceration. And as well, we've talked, and we've discussed what went on, and I believe that Jesse has absolutely changed. He is absolutely not the same person that he was when he went in. And I believe that he is his desire is that he would be able to be paroled and to be able to be with his wife and his son and his family, and there to be some form of healing there after incarceration. But like I said, I've known him very well. He's totally changed. As a pastor, of course, we pray together, and we've had some pretty serious conversations over what was done, and he's confessed that, he owns that, he knows that, and his desire is to change that. And so also as his pastor, our desire is that when he gets out, that we'll be there for him to help him and to encourage him to take part in his parole, as well as spiritual classes that will keep him on the right path and the right course there. But I can honestly say I do not believe there would ever be an intention or of ever doing something like this again, ever. And so that's what I wanted to say.
That completes testimony by supporters. Ms. Parker, would you like to make your presentation?
Hi, yes, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you all. Please let me know if you're having trouble hearing me. There has been a little bit of a delay when the members of the parole board have been asking questions. Are you able to hear me so I can move forward with my statement?
We're fine.
Great, thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Mr. Roche. So this has been a long hearing. It's been very emotional. I want to emphasize a few things. As you can see, first, I do want to apologize. There was a mistake that I made in the parole packet. I realized that Mr. Shelton's last write-up was in 2017, and I think I wrote 8 years, and that is a mistake that I made, and I apologize for that. Please don't let that reflect on Mr. Shelton. I have been representing Jesse for over a year now, working with him on getting to know him, getting ready for the parole hearing, and on some other legal matters. And I've been very moved by my representation and work with Jesse. Like Judge Marabella, as a defense attorney, working with sex offense cases is extremely difficult. It is a very emotional and challenging, morally and ethically place to be. But Jesse has always risen to the occasion in terms of our conversations about remorse, working through what and communicating how he has changed as a human being. And I want to touch a little bit more on that because he's he doesn't have a college degree, he does not have any kind of expertise in mental health work, but some of these programs that he has done and completed, I think, demonstrates some of the internal work that he's had to do to answer the question that Judge Marabella rose about what brought him to the place to commit the crimes that he did. He mentioned about the alcoholic family that he raised, the loss of his mother. He did not tell you all that he was electrocuted and fell off a ladder. He had extreme, very serious injuries from his construction occupation. He did not mention to you all that he used his opportunity at Rayburn to physically heal himself. He went through, Rayburn provided physical therapy to him. And through that physical therapy and nutrition, as he mentioned, and diet, he's pain-free at this point. And if you were to look at his medical records, and I know this because I have clients who are incarcerated that are on anti-inflammatories, that are on, what's the word I'm looking for? Muscle relaxers, and the pain medication that they're able to give at DOC. And Jesse is on none of that, which is a commitment, as someone who also has had their own back injury, to a commitment to your own spiritual and physical well-being to make sure that you are pain-free through the physical therapy and physical work on your own body, as well as the emotional work. AA and NA, as well as the recovery classes, I think from what Jessie has talked to me, has helped him assess the problems from his childhood, the issues that he was experiencing while he was an adult that led to his offense, and how he has worked on healing those so that he can maintain a family relationship with his wife and his sons. He knows that he's not supposed to be in communication with his daughter. But the fact that he's maintained that commitment to his family, despite the hardship that a family goes through when there is a sex offense like aggravated incest, demonstrates that the family and Jessie are in this to heal. And I think an opportunity to finish his sentence on parole would allow that healing process to continue, because otherwise the prison is somewhat of a barrier to allow them to move that healing process forward. And I believe that process would continue both through his relationship with his wife and his son. And as you can, I have not read the letter from his daughter, but it's inspiring, the work that that young woman has done to get to the place to forgive her father and indicate that it sounds like that she's okay with him coming home on parole. She's no longer in that area, so they would not be in contact with each other. And I believe that the fact that he has such a strong reentry program, or reentry plan, I should say, he's got his own business that his wife has maintained. That business contracts with other contractors who, as we all know, contractors are very busy right now. So there's plenty of work for Jessie to do. He's done all the programming to get prepared in order to do that work. And you can certainly have a flip phone to take those calls in order to keep that construction business moving forward. I know other folks who do that. You don't have to have a smartphone. You don't have to have a computer nowadays in order to still run. My contractor just shows up when it's time for him to come. And so I do think that the efforts that Jessie has made demonstrate that he has taken his prison time seriously, that he is remorseful for the harm that he has done, not just to his daughter, but to his entire family. He's worked tirelessly to continue to build those relationships, to apologize, to demonstrate that he's a changed person. And he has such a strong faith and spiritual foundation that I think he has the tools to succeed under parole supervision. I mean, he's not going to be a free person. If you were to parole him, he would be under extreme supervision. He'd have to continue his sex offender classes. And I think he's ready for that next step, to be under supervision, but to not be a free person. And so I'm of course happy to answer any additional questions that the parole board has. I know this has been a long hearing, but I certainly encourage you all to grant Jessie the opportunity to finish his sentence on parole. I believe he is ready and taken the classes and is a changed person for that next step in the criminal justice proceeding. Thank you.
Ma'am, I just want to make a statement. I checked with some of our people at Probation and Parole. He can have electronic devices, but they can be inspected by the probation officer at any time.
That sounds about right. I mean, and if you're on parole, you're obviously, your level of expectation of privacy is very different. And I would trust that Jessie would be able to, I mean, he's, as demonstrated, he hasn't had to write it from 2017. I think he's fully shown that he's able to follow the rules, the heightened rules, right? Because prison is not being free. There's other rules that you have to do that you wouldn't have if you're a free person, and it's the same on parole. And so I think he's ready for that next step.
Okay. Just wanted to advise.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Shelton,
Yes, sir.
would like to make a brief statement and limit that statement to why this panel should vote to release you.
First of all, I want to thank this panel for giving me this opportunity today. I'm truly sorry for the crime I committed. I own it. I understand. I may not have it all totally ironed out. And I know there's work to be done, but today I accept responsibility and the fallout of the past, but I'm prepared and ready to move from the present preparations that DOC afforded me into a future that parole may afford me. I look forward to that. I feel like I've equipped myself for it. I believe that if given the opportunity, I would not disappoint. I'm compelled to do so. I think my record reflects that my commitments, my disciplines are refined, that I'm not just a safe soap prisoner, that I'm actually a doer. I think if I had time and others that could testify under my facilitation, they would say the same, that I'm genuine. I want to be genuine. I try to be genuine. And so as I face the future, my potential for being this candidate today, I think I should be afforded this opportunity based on my past acceptance of my crimes, my present preparations, and the support, the tremendous support that I'm getting from outside. I could never ask for more than this. This is overwhelming today. I apologize for my nervousness, but I just wanted to say these few comments and give my thanks to this board for this opportunity. Thank you.
Chairman, I move that we go to executive session to discuss confidential matters.
Second.
We have a motion to go into executive session, and it's been seconded. Ms. Parole, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Mayor Bauer?
Yes.
Mr. Wade?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Executive session, they're gonna discuss it amongst themselves.
That was a 5-minute executive session, far too long.
The Committee on Parole is back in session. It is 11:21 a.m. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Shelton, I'm going to vote first because your case was assigned to me. This was a very rough case for me. This is the last thing I did before I went to bed last night. I read everything 3 times. It was a lengthy case. I knew exactly what you did and how you did it. I read your daughter's letter of 2019 and her letter of 2022. And she seems to be a very gracious young lady. And all she wants is you to take responsibility and own up to what you did and stop being controlling and being self-controlling and being manipulated. It took 10 or 15 minutes for me to pull it out of you. You had to own up to it, Jim. I don't think you really realize the devastation. And we use your daughter's word, how vile this offense was to her. I've always said, and I did a lot of prep when I got appointed to this position 6.5 years ago. The first step to rehabilitation is to own up and take responsibility for what you did. You came out and said it this morning, but I don't think you're taking full responsibility for your actions. I don't think you were completely truthful with this panel this morning about how this offense got reported. You have tremendous opposition from the legal community. Not very often that we hear from a sitting judge or a judge that sentences you. But this judge said in a statement of opposition, the DA's office opposes, you have law enforcement opposition. For all the reasons I've mentioned, lack of responsibility, not being completely truthful, and law enforcement opposition, judicial opposition, I'm going to vote to deny your request, and basically because you're not ready to be released. Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Shelton, you've done a lot of good things in prison. You have a good disciplinary record. I also read your daughter's letter several times. My vote would be to grant your parole, and that you follow all rules of the sex offender contract, be placed on electronic monitoring, and no contact with the victim unless it is initiated by her and the parole officer is advised of the contact.
Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Shelton, as I stated to you earlier, this is a hard case. This is a very, very difficult case. And this is sort of the case that oftentimes a board member has to go on their gut as opposed to what they actually see. I understand you've got law enforcement opposition. I understand all of those. Those things don't necessarily influence me that much. It's important, and it's something that I really look at. What I look at in a case like this is whether or not you really have gotten in touch with yourself about what you did. And you have taken tremendous courses, there's no question. And you may not be college educated, you may not have a formal education, but you're a very bright man, there's no question. You're very learned, you've learned a lot of things on paper. I just don't know if you've gotten it really into the heart yet. I think that my concerns are very similar to what Mr. Roche expressed. We had to pull things out of you. I don't think you were really honest about what happened, about how long it was, but that neither here nor there. 4 years by your admission is a long time. I don't believe it was just the opiates that caused all this. I think it's something deeper than that, and I'm not convinced you've addressed that yet. So my vote likewise would be to deny. I would encourage you to reapply when you can, but today my vote is to deny.
Mr. Shelton, you will receive 1 vote to grant your request with conditions, and you will receive 2 votes to deny your early release. The decision of the panel today is to deny your request. You have a good day.
What did we just see? What did we just see? Every once in a while, we get a case that just gets me. I am so mad I had to listen to it multiple times. I couldn't believe, I just cannot believe listening to his wife, the mother of the daughter, talking on his behalf. She's sick. She should be sitting there in the prison with him. She says, now I know, like it was a sign of providence. Now I know why I was taking medical records, so I can bring it up now after my husband molests and sexually assaults his daughter, my daughter, for year after year after year after year after year. Poor guy, because he lost his thumb. It was like we were being gaslit by everyone. Like even his attorney, unbelievable. She comes in. Oh, he didn't tell you everything. He was actually electrocuted once. He hurt his back once. He was on so many pain medications, but he's healed now through food and meditation. It's what are you talking about? What are you even talking about? We're talking about the molestation, sexual assault of his daughter for years. And they're trying to talk about injuries? I'm shaking. Really, I'm just shaking. There is so much that is wrong with the picture that we just saw. And I am glad that Mr. O'Shea and Mr. Marabella were on this case. Mr. O'Shea does not miss a thing. How Pete Freeman could want a grant now is beyond me. He just lost, over time I was picking up respect for him, and this was still early on. He had recently just joined, and maybe that has something to do with it, but I saw nothing here. And I don't think anyone could have seen anything redeeming. It is terrifying to think that is going to get released to his wife who is supporting him. And I was looking at his son, and I wonder what they have going on with him. He kept looking up when he was giving his testimony. If you want to look back and check that out, it looked like he kept looking up to his mother or the pastor when he was talking, almost as if he's like, something seemed off with that. This is the most manipulative roach, dangerous roach, despicable, disgusting creature that we have seen. And it's scary how clever and manipulative he can be. And Mr. O'Shea kept catching him. And he's trying, no, it wasn't, it was only from this age until this age. And no, it's not what it is in the record. No, that can't be. I don't know what I did. I everything is such a blur. I don't know with all the medication I was on. Well, I thought you said that you were only on pain meds for a year and a half. Oh, right. Yes, but then, oh yeah, he started to say, and we've seen this a lot. We've seen this quite a lot, where these offenders will say, I can't hear you. There's feedback. And Mr. O'Shea had a mic drop. He said, it's convenient not to hear the truth. So, yes. And you know what pissed me off is that when his attorney spoke, she went in and lied, in my opinion, lied to try to give her client a little bit more slack on that. Oh, there's feedback. It's hard to hear you. There was no feedback. This was one of the more clearer transmissions that we have seen, seeing over 2,000 of them. I did not hear one ounce of feedback. I watch hearings throughout the day. No one had a problem hearing the board. No one. Just them. Just his attorney and that cockroach. So, in my opinion, both were lying. And that's just sick to be an attorney. Oh, I'm gonna be a little manipulative and say, I couldn't hear you. He tries to, what's mind-boggling to me, we all saw the same hearing. We all saw what was presented to us as clear as day. He gets up here and he lies not once, not twice, not three, not four, not five. He couldn't go maybe 2 or 3 sentences without being caught in a lie. From how old she was when it started, how many years he was doing it, how long or what he was intoxicated on or not intoxicated on, those periods of time. When he went and took accountability and told everyone it was him, he did it. And Mr. She's like, well, how come your daughter had to mic up, had to wear a hidden device and get the information out of you? And he couldn't believe. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe he had that information. What was his answer even? It was like, and he kept trying to take credit. Oh, I did it. It was, and it clearly he's just, and then after we see all of that, his wife comes on to defend them. His son comes on to defend him, although I'm skeptical about, how culpable he is. It was weird seeing him looking up in the whole thing. And then the preacher comes. Preacher says, the pastor, I believe he's changed. I can honestly say that he will never have an intention to do this again. It's like, honestly, that you can honestly say that? You realize that you're standing here talking on behalf of a cockroach? You're talking on behalf of the devil himself? You can honestly say that? Why? He just lied more times in a single hearing than maybe 95% of the parole hearings and commutation hearings that we have seen. And you can honestly say he's not going to do that again? I can't believe what the mother said, his wife said. Jesse has control issues. Unfortunately, he had so many injuries. His facts are way off. His facts, not that he was lying, his facts are way off. He was on so many meds. He was at one time on 6 different pain meds at a time. We would flush them down the toilet. But I don't believe anything he did to my daughter was intentional. Yes, it was awful, but it was the pain meds, and now he's healed. And listening to how he described how it happened was so sick. It's so disturbing. He says, he in his way of trying to again manipulate or blame, or I don't, he says, it was wrongful affection. That was the word he used. When Mr. O'Shea made him admit what he did, when he finally said, Ed, tell us what you did, the things that occurred when she was a teenager from 2004 forward, I molested my daughter. I gave her wrongful affection. And then again, he says, I started with my heart. I started with my affection. And then it started with affectionate touching. And then it grew into sexual touching. And remember, it was only in 2019 that his initial parole hearing was denied because he was illegally trying to get in touch with his daughter. And that, keep in mind, that is something that we don't even, that's also a unique thing. We don't see that. He's trying to get in touch with her to manipulate her and control her more. This hearing took place just 3 years later, and there was a small hearing that he wasn't involved in. I didn't think I should show it. Richard pointed it out. It was just where his attorney showed up and pled with the board to give him a parole hearing. The same attorney showed up. It happened a year ago. We do have the recording of that, but he's not there. It's like he's just, because they had to do that because his prior hearing was such a bad performance, because he tried to reach out to his daughter. They had to hire an attorney to even get this hearing. And again, here's the more info that Richard found. He has been, it was interesting. We saw that the judge was opposed. And we don't see that very often at all. And it could be that one of the reasons she was opposed is that he is still, as of even 2019, when this came in, which 8/2/2019, he was filing appeals. And part of the appeals that he was filing was against the judge. And maybe the judge remembers that. But just keep in mind that 9 years after he's arrested, 3 years before this parole, he's filing appeals. He didn't take any. Of course, we know he didn't take any accountability. Of course, we know that he's still, not just long ago, trying to get out of prison. And why the judge even took the plea deal is beyond me. They had the recording. They should have taken it to trial. This man should never get out. 20 years, when 1 year suspended for some reason. Why? So this is, it doesn't get into the details of it, except that it shows that on May 10th, the petitioner was charged with the bill of information for aggravated incest and sexual oral battery. On May 20th, he entered a not guilty plea, which is, by the way, again, more proof, right? I owned up to it. I admitted what I had done was wrong. Oh yeah? So, well, here's your not guilty plea. Then on August 5th, the trial court granted his motion to quash that bill on the oral sexual battery count. So they did a plea deal where he would say that, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do that, And on the same date, he withdrew his former plea to enter a guilty plea, his former plea, so that he could enter a guilty plea to aggravated incest. On August 31st, 2010, the state trial court sentenced the petitioner to 20 years in prison at hard labor with 1 year suspended, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. Now, and if you're wondering, the judge actually sentenced the maximum, which is right here. And sorry about if there's an interruption. I had a phone call come in, so I had to pause this, take the phone call, and then which is a 30-minute call, and come back. So I may have lost my place. But what I was doing was looking for the legislation in Louisiana. And the legislation in Louisiana is whoever commits the crime of aggravated incest under the age of 13 years when the offender is 17 years of age or older. The maximum sentence would be 25 years, no more than, okay, sorry. That's when a person convicted shall not be fined not to exceed $50,000 or in prison without hard labor for a term of not less than 5 years, no more than 20. So this is when they're under the age of 18, not under the age of 13. And there it is. Louisiana says that if you do that to your daughter, regardless of how many times you do it, as long as she's above the age of 13, the most Louisiana can sentence you is 20 years. Why would anyone write that into law? Make that make sense. There are people who write laws in Louisiana that says this monster, this cockroach, cannot face more than 20 years. And I guess that's why they took the plea deal, because they said, hey, why go to court? You know, they dropped one of the charges, which they could have, I think, gotten, you know, it was the crime against nature. Is that the charge that they dropped? That was part of the plea deal. Oral sexual battery, which is also AKA crime against nature. Maybe previously they called it that. And so they dropped that charge because that charge, you know, I don't know, maybe it would have been another 10 years or something. It's I can't keep track, you know, you never know with these. I could Google it, but let's see. Let's just see what he benefited from that plea deal. Okay, it's right here. So for whoever commits that crime cannot get sentenced for more than 10 years. Again, another great Louisiana. I mean, if you have possession of possession of the devil's lettuce, you know, 3 times in 10 years, they'll put you away for 15 years without blinking an eye. But this, you do that to a human being, to a child, you cannot sentence you more than 10 years. We don't want someone to get more than 10 years for altering the life of a human being, of a child, or of their child, right? Well, under the age of 13, it says that then in that case, they'll do at least 25 years. But they dropped that charge. So he saved, you know, instead of going to trial, he saved 10 years on a sentence, plus the judge threw in, or the DA, maybe they negotiated it 1 year suspended. So 19 years. But remember, he had the opportunity for parole. So you know, his appeal was kind of, I'll put the link in the description. It was more on the lines of whatever. It was just ridiculous what his appeals were. But now what? He's still locked up. I'm very happy to tell you. And what is his full term date? It's 2029. Because he was sentenced in 2010, so he's got 5 more years. We'll probably see him going up for parole sometime in between, and that's disturbing to think that he's going to get out no matter what in 5 years. This monster, this evil cockroach, and it's these type of hearings that really they're disturbing. What kind of mother? What kind of woman stays with the man anyways that does this? What mother, biological daughter, forgives her husband, makes excuses for her husband? It's like that aspect of it, for some reason, is hitting me in a different way than the acts that he committed. I just, you know, I expected from the you know, the priest, and I expected from the wacko neighbors and whatever, but the mother of the victim. What is wrong with you? Why? You're picking this monster over your daughter? You're going to choose? And then of course it's going to be the goal. It's going to be the goal to guilt her and make her come, you know, spend a Christmas together with us. Come spend a Thanksgiving. Oh, what's the big deal? That's what they're going to be trying to do for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Then they're going to try to guilt her into, why is it that you feel this way? It was his fault. He was doing it out of love. It was just a wrongful affection. And she's going to be victimized over and over and over and over and over again. How does not everyone see that? It's evil. We just watched pure evil. This is it. I don't think you could believe it if you didn't see it. Thank you, Richard, for the info. And with that, I'll let you go.